Welcome to Vlog Thursday number 433, open source, KVM, self-hosted, and Homelab Q&A. Welcome, and I just did a video on a KVM, and it's top of mind is why I put KVM in there today, because I'm still answering questions that I don't always understand. The number of people that don't know why you need a KVM, and I thought it was funny. Radal was definitely talking about this when he did this video of the KVM as well. He's like, the number of people that are like, well, I don't need a KVM. I'm using a remote desktop. You don't understand the use case for a KVM. I almost like thought about putting at the beginning of the video explaining what a KVM is. And if you think it's not for you, please stop watching the video. But instead, people watch the video and then say, I have no idea why you'd use this thing. I would just rather use insert name of my favorite tool. So I put it in here today. Because I try not to ever be dismissive of people. There's sometimes just like real reasons maybe I don't understand, or maybe I can help them understand that. So I thought it was worthy of bringing it up in here. Open source, I have a video coming out soon, like whenever a thumbnail gets done, because that's always the tricky part, is figuring out like the title and thumbnail. Those don't, I know there's other YouTubers that probably start with those things. Sometimes I do the video and then finish with those things, but whatever. I'll be talking about more open source things, self-hosted business tools, etc. And yeah, but the KVM one I want to start out with, because I'll show you what the comments look like on YouTube here. So let me share a screen. But this is, and please, like I said, feel free to explain this one. This is actually a comment I've said a couple times. And am I wrong here? And so far, the ones that come to mind, the machines I have on the other side of this wall, some of them are from 2017, 2018. All the machines I have that are VGA, unless they're really old, they have IPMI on them. Because a few people asked, how are you handling VGA, as most servers don't have HDMI? I'm like, well, the servers I have, and there are, of course, still servers being shipped with VGA, which is fine because I'm using the IPMI system on it. So it's not really a big deal to me. That's questions come up a few times in here. And is that common? Is there a lot of, or are people just running a lot of older server equipment that's VGA only? I thought that was an odd question. And I thought I'd ask the audience that, I always try to figure out if I'm disconnected because of what I do, and other people, just work in a different world for things. But as well as questions, this one came up a few times. Trying to remember if there's another one in here about that. A lot of Ubiquiti questions. Oh, people seem upset. Well, at least this person, I've seen this comment before, or similar ones. Tom's turned into the UniFi channel. And I would like to point out that I have, I think, 160 or 150 so UniFi videos, and I've got roughly 1,700 videos on the channel. So it's certainly not the highest percentage of things on my channel. So I think it's kind of, yeah. So it's, anyways, this, I always find it funny when people like, can I use it to stream my TV? I'm like, I think there's better solutions, but cheaper. Yeah. I'll reply to that one later. Always the interesting things. Wake on LAN over Ethernet without ATX. Yes. But just, I thought I'd bring some of that up. Like I said, I'm always trying to engage with the audience and have a better conversation, making sure I'm not missing something that I can help clarify or bring clarity to. On another note, and I mentioned this, it's funny, I uploaded the video already, and I happened to go ahead and look over and notice that my friend over at Apple Arts Adventure has published a video on Netbox. I think he just published it today. I have not watched it yet, but I'm going to bring it up because I want to do a video on Netbox. And I know many of you have asked about it. So what I'm going to do is throw a link in case anyone's not familiar with this channel. He's on my list of channels that I suggest people follow. So his pop is, I'm not going to watch his video with all of you, but I believe, here we go. I do want to bring the attention that he has a video out that maybe some of you have watched already. At least 7.7 thousand people have so far. But this is Apple Arts Adventures. He just published a video that says document your network. Netbox is a pretty cool tool for doing that. I want to talk about it because it's integration and some of the other things that I use, but kind of excited to talk about that. Have that on the list there. Feel free to ping some questions because this is not going to be a really long stream today. I would like to remind people it is absolutely beautiful out if you happen to be in the Detroit area, and I want to go for a walk. I just want to be outside. I have been really busy with a lot of small things that are more business related and less me producing content related, but those busy things of they've created a level of exhaustedness for me. So I need to step away from the keyboard for a minute. Yeah, use IPMI on your hardware, KVM for the ones that don't have it. Yeah. Already followed him since you mentioned from the GLI KVM video. Awesome. I probably make a lot of assumptions that people follow the same people I do or know the same people because it feels like the suggestions are similar. But I even myself run across some YouTube videos that I'm like, oh, wow, this person has some great content that I like or enjoy. And I'm like, how did I not discover this channel? Especially, Apple Arts Adventures is on the newer side, but the channels that are much bigger, I've come across going, in some of my personal stuff, like a motorcycle channel or something that I might like, and I'll watch it. I'm like, I never seen this person before. Wow. They have, only 1 million subscribers. How did I not notice them? They have some cool content. Let's see here. We use Netbox for years. It does a lot and can be overwhelming for some, but for what it is, it works well. Yeah. That's a lot of it is trying to distill things down into a manageable way to discuss it. That's one of the things that's always a challenge when I'm looking for open source tools that I want to talk about or something we use is going, wow, this is a lot. It's also why there's so many videos on UniFi or so many videos on something like XCPNG. I put them in playlists to try to organize all of that data into something that works. Just got my Jet KVM today. Didn't realize I need an HDMI to DisplayPort adapter. One more day until I get to try it out. Yeah. If it's I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, I don't think I've seen any IP KVMs with native DisplayPort. Maybe they make them. At least the ones I've seen seem to be HDMI, and there's plenty of HDMI adapters so you can take your DisplayPort and convert it directly. That seems to be, that is common. You say the UniFi network application, I'm on mine, default Y space broken. The conservative setting keeps putting my AP CWs at 80 instead of 40. I don't know. Is that I'd have to look at what they're telling it to send. So let's go ahead and look. So mine is on conservative. I guess it depends on, I don't know what their defaults are. Does it default to 80? Because it could be 160. So I don't know that it's half baked. It's what should it be setting it to 20 or 40, or should it be setting that? I don't know what their defaults are here. I can see here it switches between that, and then I can choose manually if I want to just do this. So I don't know what their defaults are to confirm or deny that. And if you think Ubiquiti's half baked, wait till you see some of the enterprise software. This is something that I think people have a harder time realizing. I was having a conversation with an enterprise security person, network engineering, and they worked for Juniper several years ago, and they were just talking about all the missteps that Juniper had. It's an interesting conversation because Juniper's going to be a lot less public. They're much more niche. They're in the enterprise space, so you don't always know about the problems with them as publicly as UniFi. Once you put things in the hands of home users, it's really hard to separate the noise from the reality, because I get these people constantly telling me things like, hey, the whole UniFi ecosystem is just garbage or whatever. And when we do consulting with it, almost always we're finding problems. There's always edge cases where, it doesn't work with this particular scenario, but so many of the people are just like hooking it up wrong or don't even know what a VLAN is and have it configured in some really weird way. Overall, I think UniFi makes a pretty good product, especially compared to a lot of the other products out there. Bearded IT Dad, what is up? And your wife is in Big Rapids. Interesting, cool. And if anyone recalls, he was hanging out with me just a few weeks ago, his first time to Michigan. He came to visit Detroit. So yeah. After 5 years of watching your videos, I'm finally building a TrueNAS server. Awesome. Congratulations on your journey. Nothing fancy. Older S1200 BTL server with an LSI 9302 8i. Thanks for the help. Awesome. I wish you the best of luck with your TrueNAS journey. Very much thank you here, William. I do appreciate it. Afternoon, my friend from Canada, Cody from Mech Telecom Networks. How long do you suggest a home user wait for upgrading their TrueNAS? I'm nervous about Fangtooth, which just came out. You kind of just read the forums, maybe a week or two, unless there's some major security issue. If you want to wait a little while, you'll sometimes see a point release come out within the first 60 days. Maybe you want to wait till that, but there are some breaking changes coming. If you don't upgrade, it will break applications because they need, I think by June, they have the deadline information in there. It's by June or the end of June of 2025. You should be on Fangtooth in order to get the new app update. So they're trying to get everyone to Fangtooth by then. I generally speaking, and this is the nature of the way it works. So let me pull up one of my systems here. We'll log into it and we'll share the screen together in a moment. System, boot, and you can roll back. What this tells you right here is like right now I'm on the 25 version right now, but I can activate these other versions. I know it might be a little small, and I've talked about this before. I've got videos on this. You can roll back. So if you roll forward, you also can say, hey, make this the active version and roll back to it. Now, the exception to that, if we go over here to storage, you would have seen here an option to upgrade ZFS to the latest version. Don't do that until you're sure you're not going to roll back. So you can use it with the slightly older version ZFS. It'll work fine. It may be some feature flag you don't get, but it'll work. But once you roll forward the ZFS, there's not an undo button for that. But as long as you load this, and as I mentioned before, look, it says Community Edition down here. I'm seeing rolling backwards is not that big of a deal. Just it also, by the way, if you make changes, because the changes are stored in the active version of it, if you make changes and then roll back, those changes won't be recognized. It'll be rolled back to the instant before then. You're about an hour away from me to Big Rapids. Cool. I was gonna go tell her to say hi, but that's the driver across the. Oh, you mean is it Big Rapids or Grand Rapids? I think there might be a Big Rapids miss. Grand Rapids is about 3 hours from me, so not too far. You got a hibachi for dinner, and Tom's talking in the background. Not a bad way to spend Thursday evening. Yeah, awesome. I upgraded 3 machines to Fangtooth, had no issues. All the machines I've upgraded, I started with the release candidate, but all the machines that I've done since the release candidate come out have all been really, really smooth. So I haven't seen any major reported issues with the Fangtooth version. I think that's because so much of it was around the apps and so much of it was around the virtualization. Like that's where the change, well, not even that many app changes, mostly virtualization changes. So if you had virtualization changes, yeah, that's where you could have a more challenging experience upgrading. But for file sharing, boring, worked, nothing exciting there, which is exactly what you want. I'm not saying it's a boring upgrade. I'm like, I like boring upgrades. Okay, so she flew into Grand Rapids and drove to Big Rapids. Got it. Okay, cool. I've never, because Grand Rapids is driving distance. I forget there's just an airport there. Just installed fiber a few weeks ago. Was already on 1 gig's cable. Use the excuse to move everything to a mini rack. Looks so much better. Nice. You just feel good after you install it all. You get it cleaned up. You get the wiring where you want. Me and my friend Mike were talking about that the other day. I'm going to do a video about some of the things he's got going on. But yeah, once you get it all done, it's just nice. It's like, oh, it's complete. This feels good. The wires are labeled and they're not just dangling everywhere. It's always the goal. Oh man. Speaking of security though, and I want to bring this up because a lot of people, I've talked about this on LinkedIn a little bit. I'm going to bring up my LinkedIn post too. So there's a few things that I kind of want to bring in here that are kind of related. And I don't understand. Well, no, I do understand. We're going to pull this up because it's just timing here. The folks over at the CVE, the emitter, the whole CV thing, unrelated to the drama of it getting almost canceled and reinstated. That's all here and there. I mean, that's a different issue. The other issue is I don't know how we go from banning TP-Link to adding them as a CNA. And if you don't know what a CNA, that makes them a CVE numbering authority. Now, this is why you don't want TP-Link as one. They have a poor security track record. They're really opaque about their vulnerability management, and there's been national security and trust issues with them. This is documented. Making them a CNA when you were just talking about banning them makes no sense to me. Like, I can't understand that as a option. And I think the reason they want to be a CNA, like the entire reason for this, is when you're a CNA, when there's bugs being submitted, you get the option to, well, you always have the option, I guess, to discuss them. So let's say there's going to be a CVE on a TP-Link device. Well, we're going to go through the process. Well, now that they're a CNA, I believe it's going to add a little bit more bureaucracy and allow them to slow things down. Doesn't mean the CVE won't get issued if a security researcher finds a problem, but I believe TP-Link, because they will be the ones who want to control the numbering on it, will find ways to delay it. That's just my opinion. I'm being speculative here. And then today I see released a lot more vulnerabilities in more of their models. And yeah, it's just, they don't have a great track record. And I don't know, it's one of those things, it's hard to say. Is it incompetence on their part? They just don't care. They don't code well because they don't want to, or is it almost malicious? Either way, the result is the same, where we have a bunch of home users using devices. You know, the IoT world you're worried about is less about refrigerators and way more about your router. That is the first biggest problem. I'm not saying there's no risk from the world of toasters connected to the internet. That's not a threat model the internet was made for. But the whole problem of TP-Link is it's at the edge. It's at the spot where it's most vulnerable and most effective to be used as an attack jump point. And that's why these regular flaws that keep being found in their stuff represents a real risk, because we can block easily things from other countries. That's not hard to do. But when the call's coming from inside the house, you have a series of internal things infected, then TP-Link is definitely a big part of that threat and risk modeling you have to do, because, well, as I said, the attack is coming from inside the house. That's where the call is coming from. And yeah, so watch out, my washer and dryer are on the edge. Yeah, there's that. Someone talked about all the data. I think it was one of their home appliances. There's an article, I think maybe a few months back, about one of their home appliances. Someone's like, why does my home appliance use gigabytes worth of data? Who knows? Hard to say. How to use TrueNAS ZFS snapshots for ransomware. It's funny you're talking about security. I was looking at your 2020 video. Oh, I should have read these in order. This is the first one. I was going to say I have a video on that, but I didn't read your comments in order. It's funny that you're talking about security. I was looking at your 2020 video and then back to your live notification, and you start talking about security. Weird. Yeah, I've been talking about it for years. And yes, I have a video on talking about how quickly you can roll back from ransomware. You know, big picture stuff here too. I was over in the XCP-NG forums, and I don't think this is a great idea. People talk about connecting the control plane of their virtualization system, in this instance, XCP-NG, and they're asking about options for connecting it to Active Directory. And I'm like, that's not a great idea. And the reason why, of course, is because when you connect Active Directory to the control plane of your virtualization system, you've created a big potential security problem. Active Directory is definitely the keys to the kingdom if it attaches to everything and all the control planes for things. And there's a lot of people who give me pushback on this when I say I don't think it's a great idea for your virtualization system there, because if someone gets the admin keys to your Active Directory, then they also now have your virtualization system. And that is also in the case of XCP-ng, likely where your backups reside, so they have access to that as well. The other challenge that can, of course, come, and I've seen people do this. I had a client created a loop for themselves, and this could be done here with the Active Directory problem, where if you can't get the server to start, the server presumably is running as a virtual server inside of XCP-ng. If you can't get that to start, and that's the source of authentication, now you have a problem. How do you authenticate to get into your control plane to start the server that also is where the control plane talks to for authentication? Now, what one of the clients did a few years back was they decided they wanted to use Google for their source of all authentication. That included for their pfSense firewalls. Turns out, yes, you can do it. Downside is when the firewall's offline and it can't reach Google to authenticate because there's a problem with the firewall because of some IP address change problem, you also can't log into your firewall. So they didn't have a separate account set up on the firewall because they wanted centralized management of the users. And well, they did get centralized management, but then realizing, oh, when it's offline, it also has no fallback set up. So there's some challenges there. I have down 2 versus System D, Network D. What do you use for network configuration on GNU Linux? Whatever's in the distro I'm using, it's not consistent across every piece. So I think Ubuntu has NetPlan, I think, which means that's why NetPlan is in. I believe Pop! OS has NetPlan in it. So there's variations in there. I don't have a real preference. So I just use whatever's there and I don't usually replace it. 3-2-1 backup states. 2 states, 3 copies, 2 media types, 1 offsite. How do you address 2 media types? Someone suggests 1 backup on non-ZFS file system. Curious what you think. I don't know about the 2 media types. I mean, it is what it is. I think ZFS is absolutely solid. So backing it up on a non-ZFS system doesn't seem like an option. Matter of fact, this has been talked about quite a few times by the people over at 2.5 admins. And they back up ZFS to ZFS and then an offsite ZFS. So they're using the same medium all the time. The problem, especially when you are dealing with, and some of our clients deal with this in the movie industry, what do you do with half a petabyte of data that you need synchronized in a sane manner? ZFS replication is an ideal solution for that. But how do you change medium? What other file system can handle? I mean, you could, of course, set up Ceph, but then you've got a new complexity of I have to manage a Ceph server, so I have a different medium. So I think the two media types is not a hard rule for all things. It's nice to have, but sometimes it may be impractical. How silly is a washer with Wi-Fi? It's not like I can transfer clothes to the dryer. I agree. My primary NAS is offsite. Both are running TrueNAS. I consider it a second backup of non-TrueNAS NAS and are syncing data, but I want to hedge against potential catastrophic ZFS bug. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. I've not seen one. ZFS is an extremely well-vetted file system. That's probably the biggest complaint. Why does it take so long to get new features? Well, they do a lot of testing, and that's what I like. I don't mind. I'll sacrifice time for the quality that comes with it. So my server room is directly below the workspace for upstairs. Is it silly for me to run a 10 gig SFP port up the wall and fiber patch panels to 2 transceivers? No, thank you for the donation first. Second, no. Matter of fact, your server room being directly below your workspace and desk upstairs, one of my friends has done similar. I mean, with me, it's across, but my friend actually ran all of his cables down. He put all of his systems. So he doesn't have a computer in his room in the same way. There's no computer in my studio. There's only monitors and everything goes through the wall. So I don't think that's a big deal at all to run the 100. I mean, if it's a short distance, yeah, you can run the 100 gig. It's probably cheaper to do it in DAC. And if you're close enough, it should work. I don't know what you need 100 gig for, but I'm not here to question that. Jeff from Craft Computing did a good job talking about the challenges of running 100 gig. Because you run into you start realizing once you hit 100 gig, there's a bottleneck called my drives aren't fast enough. And I'm not talking about SSDs. I'm talking about even NVMEs. It takes some of the commercial ones to start saturating that. Yeah, they did an episode maybe 4 ago where they talked a lot about backups. They also talked about pushing versus pulling backups. Do you know why error 43 on Proxmox and a VM Windows? I don't know. I'm not sure what error 43 is. Like when my host started getting NTP from my virtual DC, which got its time from the virtual host. What are all these database errors? Oh, yes, cascading failures of time. Yeah, when time is wrong, a lot of things happen in the wrong order. Using IDIP critical device counsel is fine. Required for some sec audits, you mitigate. Oh, IDM IDP on critical device counsel is fine. Break glass credentials carefully controlled and logged. Yeah, break glass credentials is way you do that. I just encourage people first to consider before they start attaching everything to AD. Because unfortunately, I've read enough differ reports from cybersecurity incidents, and it goes, they logged into the AD, then to VMware, then to, there was a bug recently about Veeam where only if you tied it to your Active Directory. And I'm like, why would people tying their Veeam to Active Directory? Sidebar, there's much educational content in audio forums such as Thursday Vlogs, 2.5 Admins. It would be super great to find an AI tool that allows me to search all this. You can transcribe stuff, and the transcriptions are frequently available on these. Matter of fact, if they're on YouTube, that is I don't know if you know this, but you can, there's a handful of sites that do it for free, but you can also, I think the limitations are, I forget how much transcription you can do, but you can use the Google API for really inexpensive, even if you had a paid account, a few dollars a month, probably. You can pull all the audio from the YouTube videos from the command line. You know, if you look up, there's a lot of APIs to do it. Like tooling, Python tools around it where you can just grab it, pull the transcripts, and then dump all the transcripts somewhere so you can search them. I wonder if someone's ever built any tooling around that. I pull transcripts from time to time just because I'm looking for something, because it's convenient. I have an API key that I have set up to do that. Finally pulled the trigger on a UDM SE coming from pfSense. I'd be able to follow the firewall login, the GUI with UniFi. Will I be able to follow the firewall log in the GUI in UniFi? Some of it. UniFi, the latest 9.1 adds a lot more, but there's still some things that aren't in the UI. They're adding a lot more to it for the logging. It's not as detailed. The logs are not fully detailed as they are in pfSense in terms of in the web UI, but you can easily export them with something like Graylog. So that's what I do. That's my solution. I was trying to create a VM recently. Everyone shows how easy to set up Linux, but Windows with a TPM is a nightmare. Thoughts on setting up a VM in Windows and TrueNAS? I don't care much. I haven't played much with it since they changed it, but I've never cared much for the virtualization in TrueNAS. It's definitely not as thorough. My preference is for using an XCPNG. I've done videos on how to set up Windows and how to set up a TPM. What are the pros and cons of block level versus file system backups in terms of ZFS and rsync? Block level is going to be a whole lot faster because you're only dealing with the block changes. Rsync has to go, hey, what changed here? Let me re-index all these files. And that is a lot more challenging because you're reading a whole file system. ZFS, because it's a block level, it says, what are the blocks that change? For example, if you have a terabyte of data in a particular directory and you move it to another directory, that doesn't mean there's a terabyte of changes, but that does mean there is a change at the block level of where that directory is pointed at. Or if you rename files, all you've done is change however many kilobits the differential is in renaming it. and not even kilobits, that'd be bytes. So those few byte changes then can be synced versus rsync may go, hey, look, I found an entirely new directory that I didn't see before. Let's send it again. So block level with ZFS replication is really efficient and one of the reasons it's so popular. I'm debating myself. It's hard to argue with a $100 mini PC that is running PSN flawlessly almost 6 years and should continue to run. Yeah, I agree. It ain't broke, don't fix it. Is Altalab's Route 10 still good in comparison to the UniFi? I have not used the one from them yet, but one of the things I talked to them about this. So let's pull up Altalabs. So I think they're interesting. They're just going a completely different route than UniFi. So we'll throw them up here. They're going the drive me crazy with pull downs that fade away route. Route 10. So they still don't have much in here. They have 4 2.5 gig RJ ports. This is all right, cool. 2 10 gig ports, great. PoE, quad core Qualcomm network accelerator, VLAN, QoS, and tagging. But if I'm not mistaken, I don't think, and maybe they got it yet. Maybe they got it or have it soon. They don't have even all the VPN support in here. Hardware accelerated, but if I'm not mistaken, they don't even have OpenVPN set up. Maybe they have it by now. When they first reached out to me, they didn't have it. It wasn't that long ago, and I don't know when they're getting some of it. So I would say it's like, yeah, they have a long way to go to get that firewall up to the capabilities of UniFi. They feel very far behind. And I told them that. They asked me if I want to review it. I said, if I review a firewall that's at minimum, not feature comparison. And even they said, yeah, it's not feature complete compared to UniFi. I'm like, well, then what's the incentive for me to use it? Where's the incentive? Where's the sell that goes, yes, this is the device for me? When you want someone to switch devices, you want them to at least, if I want to replace this glass of water that is about half full, you at least have to give me a half full glass of water, or I wouldn't be interested in changing out my glass of water. And so if you don't have all the features ready yet, let me know when you do, because that makes it a compelling option. Now, if there's half a glass of beer, that might be better than glass of water, depending on your opinion if you drink, but I might exchange it for that. But they didn't have any features that exceed what UniFi is doing. So that's where the challenge comes in with a lot of these, where you at least to get someone to switch. It's hard to get people to switch to products, even when you claim the product is better. You have to prove in the market the product's better. You also really have to compel me for the trouble of changing, especially when what I have isn't broken. Yeah, you've used YT, DLP, envisioning something a bit more polished where I can point to a few sources, then ask chat to spit out every episode with the minute markers. This is something that I wish worked. I used to, and I just gave up on it because it's just so broken. The ChatGPT, and I've tried several other tools, they do a terrible job of even the paid service. I was actually paying a service for a little while, and it was just useless. You would point the video at it, and it would just give me terrible chapter titles. It would sometimes give me chapter titles. If the video I did, let's say I did a 30-minute tutorial video, it would have chapter titles for only 10 minutes of it. Other times, it would give me chapter titles that exceeded the length of the video. It didn't do it consistently, and I always had to keep playing with it all the time to try to make it better. This is kind of a neat tool. I see someone mentioned here. Notebook LM is pretty neat too. None of these tools are amazing. That's how I feel. They all have fallen short. They're so close to being good. They get you excited that they'll be good next year. But you got to remember, ChatGPT's been out for a few years, and every time it's next year. At the same time, they're losing what they lost in 2024, something like $4 billion. I mean, that's a lot of money to lose for a product that doesn't work. Uh, oh, it doesn't work completely as planned. Do you know if there's a configuration that will allow me to leave WireGuard auto sense my location on a mobile phone? Um, so when you're in the house, it disconnects when going out automatically connects WireGuard VPN. Not that I'm aware of. So I'm not. I just turn it on an as needed basis. That's been my solution. But yeah, blasphemy! How dare you speak ill of our new hype god? Yeah. Me and some friends were discussing some of this, and I've quoted some things like Ed Zitron has talked about on AI, and you know, just some big picture stuff here. This is the sentence I really liked. Generative, start with the words right. Generative AI lacks basic unit economics, product market fit, or market penetration associated with any meaningful software boom. And outside of OpenAI, the industry may be pathetically and hopelessly small while providing few meaningful business returns and consistently losing money. OpenAI products do not scale like traditional software in that the more users that use it, the more expensive it gets, not lower. That's where the real hangup is in here. The models are so compute intensive, the more people that sign up for it, it costs them money. They admit they're losing money all the time with more people signing up. That's not how the other models work. Facebook had a base cost that they had to overcome to become a very profitable company. And adding more users doesn't have the same cost. And it does with OpenAI and any of these large language model companies. They've all had trouble scaling. They've all had trouble, well, funding in some of them, because as they've kind of started falling off, OpenAI is still going strong, grabbing money. But yeah, we still don't have the magical products we were promised. What are the pros and cons of mixing network switches from different vendors in terms of management? I prefer to keep my network as vendor neutral as possible. Um, you just have to have multiple things to remember. Like, oh, I'm going to log into my UniFi to set this VLAN. I'm going to log into my Cisco switch to set this VLAN and define them again. So you end up defining all the network VLANs or whatever those segmentations are. Then monitoring becomes its own thing because you now have to monitor multiple switches. So pros and cons. Pros, it's completely possible. Cons, you have a lot more different things to monitor. Same thing with your patch cycles. Your patch cycles suddenly aren't consistent because you have to watch for updates from each one of the brands on your network. When you have a homogenized network of the same switches, fantastic. When there's an update and you've got all the same model from the same vendor like UniFi across their switches, pretty much you can get an update for all of them. And you can then schedule the updates and say, look, there's a new version of the UniFi switch software, or like 9.1 for their controller software that came out is going to be patched once versus multiple controllers for multiple people. Yeah. If you want, standardizing on a single one makes life a lot easier. Here's the thing about the industry: the people making the money are the people selling the shovels, and who's making even more money are the people manufacturing the shovels. Absolutely. This is the joke from the old times when the miner 49er, the boom of the 1800s of there's gold in them dare hills, as the saying went. The people who made a lot of money were the people selling the equipment needed to become a miner. Maybe you were a gold miner and maybe you bought land rights or had land rights somewhere to find gold, and maybe you would strike gold. But a lot of people didn't. But everyone needed tools to look for the gold. So you would win if you sold the tools. You sold the pickaxes. And I believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong in history, but I believe that's where Levi jeans became a big name brand, was they would sell a lot of the clothing and apparel to the miners. They sold rugged wear, which became how jeans became such a popular thing out there for the working class. Had to update all my documentation on UniFi when they changed to policy-based rules. Yeah, that's if you have multiple brands you support, you kind of have to keep all your documentation organized for all those different models as well. That's often why people do standardize, because it just becomes easier from a support standpoint, and you don't have to say, oh crap, we only have we have 5 technicians. 3 of them know this product, and these 2 know that product. Oh, and only one of them knows this other obscure product that one client has. And thank you for letting me know that I was correct on the Levi's. I thought that was the brand that came out of the Old West. Do you work with any network edge devices like PLC or HVAC controls via cellular connection? Not usually. I mean, we have people that we've had to reach over cellular connection. I did some consulting a while back for an IoT company that was industrial control monitoring. I believe they were some type of oil sites. I don't know. I don't know enough about what they actually monitored. I didn't have to. Wasn't my job. But I do know we set up in the data center for them all the switching and PFSense stuff to make sure that all the data flowed back to them from all the cellular devices. That was my task. Are there vendors or products you're interested in or think are cool but don't have the time to make videos about them or mention to use? All the time. I can't name them off the top of my head right now. I would probably like to maybe make a few more videos on Microtech. I'm going to make at least 1 or 2 more. I got some stuff over there. My friend Jeff from Graph Computing. This is hopefully tomorrow's project. He's got these cool monitoring things. The Axe PoE effect. My goal. This is on my desk so I can set it up tomorrow. So it's not that I just haven't gotten to it yet. I think there's probably a few other things on my desk. I'd have to look over there. Sometimes people send me things. I'm like, that's cool. Or that I just don't have time. I mentioned Netbox earlier. Definitely something I want to have time to do. So hello from Cyprus. Greetings. I love that all these people from all over the place. I think what time is it in Cyprus? It's a little bit later. So a little bit later there. Yes. Sprinter IT is Chris Tiffany is a friend of mine. So yes. He does a lot more of the cellular stuff. Trying to think, he's talked about it before. If you look up Sprinter Tech, you can find him. Do you have any services that are GPU accelerated? I would say my currently broken. Actually, I know what. I know why it's broken. I turned it off. I've done one on Olama. I run Olama, and I don't know where Olama is now, but let's look. It appears to be broken. I just queried it, and it said it gave an error. I think I have it stopped, but Olama is GPU accelerated. Where's Olama? There's Olama. What's it doing? It says it's working. I'll have to sort out why I got an error when I just queried it. It timed out. It said, I have an unknown token. But it sees the models. Huh. Well, that's tomorrow's problem. I'm not going to mess with it tonight. Or today. Ooh, what applications have you used or hosted in a container? Right now, let's pull it up. So Fresh RSS, I'm going to move it. It's currently on Synology just because it's there. I'm probably going to move it over to my thing running Docker so they can all just live in one spot. But I don't have that much in here. I've got like Dazzle, NetData, Nginx Proxy Manager, OpenWebUI, and Rust Desk. So I don't run that many things. I just don't have a lot that I run right now. I mean, there's an MB server. I'm going to try Jellyfin. It's on my to-do list. It's not usually what I talk about on my channel, so I don't know how much I'll spend time talking about it. Greetings from Belgium. Awesome. Heard there's good chocolate there. I think someone sent me some Belgian chocolate before a while ago. I don't know if it was you. I don't remember. It's been so many years. I remember I was like, this is really cool. Someone sent me stuff. Someone sent me hot sauce. I forgot to grab it. I will talk about it. I know it's what's in the box. I got to open the box. I was like, oh, I'm going to open this. And then I'm here and it's upstairs. I just picked it up today. So if you're the person who sent me hot sauce, I will Thank you. I remember it was being mentioned here in the live stream when the person said they're going to send it. A quick one. Any DR ideas for storage regarding VMs, same building strategy using XCPG and Synology? I have a whole video on that exact topic. So if you look, I have a disaster recovery video on XCPNG. I did that very recently. Nope, that's not the one. Where is it? I will drop the link to the video here. That video, I detail out how to do disaster recovery with XCPNG. What if your system? I titled it "Hope for the Best, but Plan for the Worst." Disaster recovery guide with XCPNG. I think I got it to the point there. Industrial control monitoring is what I'm interested in. I've seen products like Pepware or Linovision, but just looking to figure it all out. Yeah, I don't spend a ton of time in that space, so I don't know what the best ones are. Like, I've not done a real comparison. Nope, I have not touched any of the LXC containers yet. It's not high on my priority list to do it, so yeah. I'm not. I'll probably just run the containers for things I think belong on my TrueNAS, like maybe the Jellyfin server, but I'm not going to spend too much time on like the LXC containers. I just would rather run everything as on my virtual host. The issue comes with DR is always storage synchronization. I mean, having bandwidth. I'm been setting up and consulting with a client on a project for just that. The data centers they have full 10 gig between them that they're guaranteed. So that's how they're synchronizing the data between their two sites. There is only so much data based on their run rate that can be produced, though. So you can't have, I mean, depending on your data, will 10 gig work? That depends on you. People look for full real-time synchronization. Great goal, not always practical. If you're producing more data than the pipe can sustain, get a bigger pipe. And then someone goes, well, that's going to cost a lot more money. I'm like, well, it is. That's just part of your DR plan. You have to figure out what's reasonable. And you usually, and there may be exceptions, but you usually run into budget problems. Yeah, 10 gig between data centers, that's weak sauce. You're right. But that's what their budget is. That's it comes down to budget. Can they buy a bigger pipe? Oh, absolutely. But is there a price difference? Oh, of course. The data center people and everyone would love to sell you a faster pipe. Just sign here. Look, get your credit card ready. If you want 10 gig guaranteed, it costs this. You want 100 gig guaranteed, no problem. It costs something more. This is the challenge with any of these things. I agree. It's been looking great so far. I've been really happy with TrueNAS 25. I tried to lock down my admin in TrueNAS. I managed to break everything. Suggestions on locking admin down accounts. You can't really. You need to admin the TrueNAS with an admin user. I don't understand. That's the break glass account. That's the account that has all the privileges. Somebody has to be root. And essentially, I mean, you can change it so it's not actually root, but you just have to apply those higher level privileges. That's just the admin role. You just be very careful about the admin role. I only log into my TrueNASs to mostly show someone something on a video or in a live stream. But from a day-to-day standpoint, I don't log into my TrueNAS that much. I use it with the users I created to access the shares or the tools on it. The root account or admin account is how I admin the TrueNAS. So I don't know how to really lock that down. If you lock it down, it can't do its job. I don't know what job it needs to do otherwise. There's not anything functional in TrueNAS that I use that's in there. So, yeah. Also, only one pipe. I like at least two for an NC. Yep. Absolutely good point. The the hosting company for this client guarantees all that. Like they say there's guaranteed 10 gig between our two locations. They're as a service taking care of the way the data traverses there with redundancy levels. But yes, it kind of depends on whether you buy it as a service from the data center company or you are trying to provision to two different ISPs to get the connections between the locations. Yeah, I'm a newbie on security and TrueNAS. I feel stupid asking a question in this group, frankly. Too many net crews. Oh, no problem. That's what I'm saying. I've got a whole lockdown video on TrueNAS. And yes, that is why I made the video, is to just, you can watch that. It gives you an idea. You notice I don't talk a lot about like creating multiple users for different functions in TrueNAS. It's not really designed that way. Generally, when you set up that user, that is the admin user for you. So don't feel embarrassed. I mean, I'm certain I've asked embarrassing questions consistently over the years, and still, despite 25 years in tech, I will undoubtedly ask something stupid that I don't understand. that will definitely occur in my future. Hopefully people will be kind to me. I try to be kind to others. It's definitely there's always that person. I didn't like that someone was downvoting in Reddit today. There was someone asking about UDP hole punching. It's in Reddit R networking, and I'm like, that's a fair question. Or asking, they didn't understand how it worked, and someone actually linked to a good guide on how it worked, and I just replied. But I seen people downvoting the person for even asking, and I'm like, I know it's UDP hole punching might be a noob question for Reddit R networking, but still, it seems like a fair place to ask. It's not Reddit R networking experts only. It's just Reddit networking. That's where networking questions seem to be asked. There's a reason I'm in there and subscribe to that subreddit to reply to people who have networking questions. Yeah, always route your NAS to WAN. That's definitely a terrible idea. The number of people that I should look on Shodan. Hold on, let's look together, because someone's doing this that shouldn't be. Let's find out. Let's how many of these? Oh crap. Let me log in first, then I'll share, because I think I need to log in to actually see this. See, if we go here, pull this up in a second. Yeah, it looks like there's a lot of people exposing TrueNAS and Showdown. I'm not even going to show this because I don't know if it'll get me in trouble or not. You go to Showdown yourself and type in TrueNAS. That's interesting. That's not I didn't like to see that many results. I didn't validate that they're all actually TrueNAS servers. I don't see as much FreeBSD anymore. It's not zero, but it's certainly not the most popular anymore. No, we're not going to do this. I don't know what trouble I would be in if Showdown was there. Yeah. If I showed Showdown and showed bad, I don't want to know if there's potential issues with it. I don't know. Have you had any issues with network application 9199? Looks like Ubiquiti pushed it back to release candidate. I have not, but if they pushed it back, I mean, it was release candidate yesterday when I showed it at 9119. My video I published shows that I'm running 9119, and it was still listed as release candidate. So I don't think it was, I mean, I didn't see it pushed to full. So I'm not aware of any problems, but I didn't read the latest issues. Any of the systems I've updated all seem to work fine, but I didn't update 100% of them because as of yesterday, and again this morning, I didn't see anything otherwise. It was 9119 and 9.1.119 was release candidate. Like I said, I didn't see any breakage, but I've been busy and I haven't been in the forums today to see if there's people complaining about things. But it's been an hour. I'm going to wind it down. I'm just looking out my window a little bit going, It's nice out. I see sunshine coming through the window, so I'm going to go enjoy some of that. Tom, are you a UniFi fan or still PF Sense and UniFi for the network equipment? I still have some PF Senses. I have quite a few of them out there. People ask me why I haven't done a lot of new videos on PF Sense, and it's kind of like I don't know. There's not anything new to talk about. That's a huge problem, so to speak. Like, I don't know what people want me to do. Is I was like, so should my OpenVPN video was done about a year ago. Should I do it again? What would I do different is nothing. It would be the same video again. I've like, yeah. So it's not that there's been a particular slowdown. There just hasn't been a demand to do more videos. I mean, there's people asking, hey, what they usually ask is, hey, your OpenVPN video or your video on firewall rules is like a year old. I'm like, well, the firewall rules haven't changed in a year. They haven't really added any new features for me to talk about. So it's not that I'm not doing the videos. I'm just haven't had much to talk about with their new videos. Do you know any solutions for backing up iCloud to a local NAS? I do not. I don't use iCloud, so I don't have an answer for that. I got offered as an update, not logged in, so I don't have access to our, I believe you can get release candidates without logging in. I'm almost positive. You can't get early access without logging in, but I believe you can get release candidates. I could be wrong. I'd have to double check. But like I said, as of yesterday, when I published that video, it was still release candidate. And as of this morning, when I looked, it was still release candidate. So that's my understanding. But I'll check the forums. But thank all of you for being here. It's been awesome. I love chatting with all of you. I will hopefully do another Saturday stream coming up because I like doing those as well. And I've thought about doing one during the week as well. Sometimes I'm at night sitting down going, I should do a live stream, but then I get kind of busy doing other things. So they did push it and pushed it back a little more than an hour ago. Interesting. So I'm assuming, and the nice thing is you can communicate on the forums with them or read through the notes. There's some reason they did that. I just don't know why. But that's here nor there. And I'll look into it to see what the problem is if I have something, but I'm sure that they will fix it. They've been pretty good about being on top of things, but software is hard. There's a lot of moving parts to it. And you never really know if there's a problem until you push it to production. So I'll leave you with those thoughts. Thanks, everyone, and take care.